Questions for oral answer today. I call on Government Order of the Day number 1.
Weathertight Homes Resolution Services Financial Assistance Package Amendment Bill, third reading.
The Honourable Maurice Williamson.
Mr Speaker, I move that the Weathertight Homes Resolution Services Financial Assistance Package Amendment Bill be now read a third time. Mr Speaker, I have to say this is a very, very exciting day for me as Minister to be actually doing the third reading of this legislation, because it's the culmination of a huge amount of work by officials and teams of people working with local bodies, working with banks, working with a whole lot of others to get to finally a package that could be agreed on that would allow people to get out of the traps that they've been caught in, finding themselves in a leaky home and unable to do anything about it. Mr Speaker, I will actually transverse some of the history of how the leaky home syndrome came about as I give the speech, but today I want to just pay a bit of tribute to some of the people that were involved. Sir, I have to say to Dave McClellan and to Adrian Renault and to a number of other people in the Department of Building and Housing a very big thank you for the long, hard work, difficult work at times of getting to a resolution. But sir, just quickly to go through some history, because I often hear the history of this thing misquoted. First of all, sir, I often hear people say it was the national government who put the Building Amendment Act through in 1991. Well, it would be worthwhile just getting on record that that bill was introduced to this Parliament by Margaret Austin, the Honourable Margaret Austin, a Labor minister in the Labor government of 1990, and it passed through every one of its phases, sir, until the election of 1990 was completed, and then the national government, with the total support of Labor, finished the third reading. So I just want to make it clear, that National was supportive of the legislation, but it wasn't the national government that put that bill up that moved to deregulate the industry. The second big myth, and I must say I actually believe this myth myself, sir, was that it was politicians that had moved to allow untreated timber in the mid-90s, which is one of the key ingredients to the problem. But sir, actually no politician was involved in the decision to go to untreated timber. It was a decision taken by a subcommittee of Standards New Zealand. The proposal was put up by a number of the timber companies saying we don't need to keep treating timber. And interesting, if members were interested in reading the document, they'll find the whole debate at the time was about Bora. Really interesting. No one raised in the question about rotting timber if it got wet. It was, did we need to keep treating timber because Bora no longer really existed in New Zealand? The Standards Committee decided it would become an acceptable solution under the Building Act and the Building Code, and not a single politician was involved in the decision. And I think what speaks quite loudly that it wasn't the government or ministers of any flavour that were involved is that every time someone has tried to join the Crown in litigation and blame the Crown for this dreadful, dreadful fiasco, the courts have thrown it out and said there is no responsibility on behalf of the Crown. So now, I want to make it clear to everybody in this House, because this is something I've looked at for a long time, there is no one thing to blame here. This was a systemic failure across the entire industry. Sir, this was designers, this was builders, this was materials, this was construction methods, this was consenting, this was inspections, this was homeowners not doing relevant maintenance. This was a systemic failure. Monolithic cladding used with no cavities in the building design, and actually non-treated timber was a recipe for a disaster. Well, sir, when we came to government in 2008, we came at the same time as the global financial crisis. And I have to say it was a really difficult ask to go to the finance minister, who was struggling with an economy based on what was going on right around the world, of the worst we've seen, and say to him, I've got a new expenditure item that's bigger than just about anything you've ever seen on your books. And I have to say the Honourable Bill English sat down and looked at it and said, whoa, and worked through it, and the Prime Minister got involved, and finally this government decided, unlike the previous Labor government, who had for 9 years said, this is not our problem, We are not going to offer up a solution. And that's the facts. Helen Clark said, she said it was a media beat-up. I've got the quotes. We decided something had to be done, and we began a process of trying to negotiate. Now, the local authorities wanted a one-third, one-third, one-third. Superannuitants wanted to have no money borrowed and have it all paid for by the government. And over time, we gradually got to the package today. A package today which sees the Crown paying 25% of the repairs of the work required. The local authority, if there was one involved, and in some cases there was no local authority involved, but if there was, they will pay a 25% share. And then an underlying loan, which we call a loss-sharing arrangement with the banks, between the banks and the government, will be made to the homeowner to repay for the repairs. Sir, this is money that will be paid on receipt of work done, and that's vitally important. We are not going to be handing out large chunks of money to people who own a leaky home, who could then maybe take the money and run, sell a leaky home on someone else, and then you haven't fixed the problem at all. This will be on actual receipt of work done to fix the leaky homes. Now, I have to say I found Mr Twyford's view on this a little bit puzzling. When Labor had for 9 years said it is not the government's right to be involved and would not, Mr Twyford then chose to attack me last week for saying, well, it doesn't include apartments. You know, they wouldn't include anybody, even the single dwellings, but somehow my package, or our package, the national government's package, wouldn't include apartments. Well, he was wrong, sir. He was wrong. This package does allow apartment owners to make an application for financial assistance. The only difference between them and a single dwelling is they have to get their body corporate's agreement. But, sir, that's the same for apartments, even if they want to just do a general renovation. If you want to paint an apartment block, if you want to put new tiles throughout the common, you have to get the body corporate's agreement. Now, we changed the Unit Titles Act and made it that you didn't have to get 100%, because one of the worst aspects about unit titles of recent times, if you had a 100-unit apartment, all you needed was one, maybe absentee landlord who was a standout and said, I'm not signing, and the other 99 couldn't make progress. So last June we passed the Unit Titles Act, which means a 75% majority is enough. And I make it clear today, sir, to anybody out there listening, that if they are in an apartment block, they are entitled to make an application, the block is, but it has to be agreed across the block. Now, it's quite sensible. It would be nuts if you fixed Unit 3, Unit 17 and Unit 29 and made them not leaky anymore, but all the others that join onto them, which have common walls, did. You have to get everybody signed up, but if they do, they have just as much right to apply for the 25-25 package as anybody else. Sir, the presenter on the television program the other night called A Rotten Shame said, I don't know whether Maurice Williamson's ever looked into the eyes of a leaky homeowner. Well, sir, does he ever know how to get something wrong? I've spent the last 2.5 years looking into the eyes of hundreds, if not thousands, of people with a leaky home, and sir, it's one of the most ghastly blights on the landscape of this nation. You could not help but feel for people who, through no fault of their own, had done nothing wrong, but had ended up with their only or their biggest asset in life rotting before their eyes and no way out of it, sir. And you just could not have any compassion in you and say, well, it's not for us to be involved. We've been found by the courts not to have a responsibility here. So the Crown is stumping up. With $1 billion, it's probably going to be more than that. 75% of these homes are in Auckland, and then 4% in Christchurch, and 4% in Tauranga, and 9% in Wellington, I think are the numbers. So it's mainly an Auckland-type problem. But, sir, it could be as much as a $22 billion issue based on what Price Waterhouse said. And I am proud of a government, I'm proud of a Prime Minister, and I'm proud of a Finance Minister who, even in the toughest times economically, said, you can't just let these people sit in a rotten home that's going nowhere. This package offers an absolute option. It's voluntary. It is not mandatory. Nobody has to accept this package, although I bet you there's a lot that do. If some people want to pursue the legal aspects and go through the litigation path, they can still. That has not been closed off to them. But, sir, let me just tell them, I have seen so many cases of litigation that even when you win, you lose. because your legal bills can often be more than the settlement that you got. So I advise people to look at this carefully. This is, I believe, a very fair and balanced option from the government that people can take. Sir, it's a very proud day for me to be in this House speaking on the financial assistance package for weather-tight homes.
Order. The question is that the